You're all set. Did we get them all this time?
No.
Just checking, because Beth sent out an email
I know.
last week. We didn't get them all.
I knew there was a couple that missed it, we just didn't bring it back up.
Okay.
We apparently didn't sign a couple.
Yeah, they were in the orange folder.
Yeah. Because we had some questions on them.
Did they come back? Are these any of the same ones?
It's all together. These all look great on them.
She gave you the thumbs up.
Huh?
She gave you the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
And there's three on those, so if you put those in there, be good. We should be good.
You have three.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Ward Board of Selectmen for March 4th. Sorry for the delay. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comment.
Hi, Kyle Parker, Old Francistown Road. Just a note, when you're watching the video online live, the mics that Naomi uses, a lot of times you can't really hear what she's saying. And I know she's got her laptop there, so,
There was an issue found. It's been rectified.
oh, okay.
So I had one microphone, and the one I had didn't work. Janice had two, so it was trying to pick me up over here, not here.
Okay, no, that's great, thank you.
Got it?
Thank you.
Right.
Frank Campana. I just want to tell the board, first off, you can all take a cleansing breath. It's on me tonight, not you. I've always been a person that could, when I make statements or put information out, that if I can be correct, if it's wrong, I certainly can be corrected. And that actually happened last week when I was addressing the board. And it had to do specifically with the minutes of January 8th. I commented, and quite strongly, that the minutes did not contain any indication of the previous meeting for discussing the cruiser line and the police budget. I was pretty adamant at that. Well, I was wrong, and I thank Selectman Bloom for actually bringing it up the last minute. I didn't understand where you were going at the time, but it certainly prompted me to say, well, I better relook at my copy of the minutes of that meeting. I had had them previously, and I didn't read down far enough. I stopped I understand what you're saying now. I stopped too soon. It was line 218, discussion ensued about line 236A. Like I say, so you can take it as an apology to whoever it applies to. You can take it just as a correction on my part. I don't care how you interpret it, but I misspoke, and that's my correction.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
Good evening, Richard Butt. I'd like to talk a few minutes about the police cruiser, operating budget, and individual warrant articles. I believe that the chief has put together a great plan in terms of rotation of police vehicles. It's basically a 6-year plan, rotating vehicles every 6 years. And I think it's something that's needed. We don't want to jeopardize the safety of officers and the safety of the people in town with having vehicles that are too old. The question is, where does it belong, I guess? It can go in the operating budget. It's an annual request. Every year, there's going to be a vehicle purchased, or attempted to be purchased. There's no reason why that can't be an operating expense. Even though it's a capital expense, it can appear in the operating budget, and there are towns that do that. I don't think it's a benefit to the taxpayer to do that. I would disagree with putting it in the operating budget. One of the reasons is the cost. You have to get an operating budget approved first in order to guarantee that the vehicle is going to be there every year. Because if you get the operating budget approved, then the following year's default budget will have that amount in there. So that's one hurdle you have to get over. And the other thing is that if there are any grants or other revenue sources that can help offset that cost, it can't be applied to an individual article line item in the budget, in your operating budget. So from a taxpayer standpoint, I'll be paying the $80,000 a year every year for a new vehicle, even though there may be grants or other revenue sources that would help to offset that. And a lot of these grants restrict usage. You can't use it for tax relief. So the only way you could, it's a real stretch to use any revenue to offset the vehicle, is to use that revenue as a offset against the tax, against the total obligation. It would reduce the tax rate, considering it revenue like you would consider revenue coming in from vehicle registration. I think it's going to be hard to do that. If you place it on the warrant as an individual article, you can use those grants and you can use any offsets. So the example would be this year. If that vehicle was in the operating budget this year for whatever $80,000, you wouldn't be able to apply any of those offsets for that item. So as a taxpayer, I'm paying taxes on $85,000, $80,000, whatever the number is. But as an individual article in the warrant, with the offsets that we had, would not only probably guaranteed of getting the vehicle, but it's not going to cost the taxpayer anything. So I think to me, that's the big difference between an operating expense as opposed to being an individual article on the warrant. Yeah, that's about it. So I would hope the board would at least enter into some discussions. I think the chief is pretty kind of adamant, but I'm sure he's open for discussion of putting it in the operating budget. I would hope that you could start having discussions with the department, with the police chief, before we get to budget season, and get it resolved quickly, rather than wait till October, November, or December. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay. We'll go to the Southern Hampshire Planning Commission, Ware Transportation Study. Okay, yep.
Helene Kirk, on Mount Dearborn Road, but I'm here to introduce this survey that we're talking about. I'd like to give a little bit of a backstory so that you know how we got to this point to be in front of you. I'm one of the 5 directors of Hand in Hand Senior Center, which is a 501c3 nonprofit located at 33 North Stark Highway. We do a number of things there. We have lunches on Wednesdays. We serve about, on an average of 50 lunches. We deliver to people who can't come. We have a small food pantry that's open Wednesday through Saturday from 11 until 4. It's a no questions asked food pantry. Our income comes from a thrift store, and if you haven't been there, it's absolutely worth your while to go. It's a well-organized, attractive, fun place with fun people. We offer things like yoga. We've just started Yoga 2. We don't have a live instructor. We have a DVD. We have between 6 and 12 people who participate in that, in Yoga 1 and now starting Yoga 2. We have crafts that go on. We have speakers, people in the community. The police department has been there, the library has been there. So we're part of the community as well as the fact that we're a nonprofit. All our expenses are paid through the thrift shop, our rent and utilities. We get grants and we get donations. And I have to say, this community is very, very generous. The donations help us to keep really afloat and to think of things we can do for the community in the future. We're hoping that we can offer Tai Chi going forward, a walkers club, day trips. We have a program with Granite Visiting Nurses Association, and we are looking into a number of other outreach organizations that have reached to us, and now we see how we can use them. Again, this is no taxpayer money, but it is the taxpayers' donations that come forward. So how did we get here? One of the things that we've tried to do is listen to the community we're serving. And what has come up anecdotally is that we don't have transportation. Well, all of us who live here know that we don't have any public transportation or, quite frankly, volunteer transportation. One day, I went into the library and I saw a flyer, Community Transportation and Mobility Resources. And Ben Herbert is the manager for that. And I reached out to him. And so the library has also played a role here. And I reached out to him to see what we could do. So he met with us. And from there, we moved forward. We have here Sylvia von Akla, okay, who is Executive Director of Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, to help us through this process. We've met with Ben and Sylvia and Naomi a number of times to develop a survey, because it's great for me to have gotten anecdotal people telling me, oh, I really need transportation to get to a doctor's office or to go shopping. But that doesn't tell us about our full community. So what we're attempting to do is see, what does this community really need? And then, after we have an answer to that, how can we work to provide it? So with that, I'm going to turn you over to Ben, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. I'm also going to leave with you some things from the senior center so you can have a better picture of who we are.
Sure.
Ben, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Helene. As said, my name is Ben Herbert, and I am the Regional Mobility Manager for Region 8, which is the Southern New Hampshire Regional Coordinating Council for Community Transportation. One thing I want to make clear is that regional coordinating councils for transportation, such as RCCs, are different than regional planning commissions, RPCs. So on this map here, you can see that the regional coordinating councils for transportation are the colored regions, and the regional planning commission areas are the black borders. So, as mentioned, the region I serve is Region 8. This keeps skipping on its own, I don't know why. The region I serve is Region 8, which is the Southern New Hampshire RCC, also referred to as the Greater Manchester-Dairy-Salem RCC. And Ware is a part of this region that I serve, as well as being a part of the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission's region. So what exactly is mobility management? I tend to break it down into 3 separate roles. One being a champion for community transportation. So when I say community transportation, it's not just public transportation that you'd find in Manchester, but also volunteer driver programs that exist throughout the whole region, both in the urban and rural areas. A network builder, building connections with not just transportation organizations and providers, but also any organization that represents a significant stake in populations that depend on transportation, such as the senior center with Helene, but also senior centers throughout the region as well, such as in Wyndham or Londonderry. And then the third thing I'd like to describe mobility management as is one-on-one assistance for people in need of transportation. People actually reach out to me one-on-one looking for help finding transportation. Usually it's for medical appointments, and then I'll work with them to help connect them with the right resources that gets them to where they need to go. So why exactly am I working with Ware in hand? Well, Ware is the only town in this region with no community transportation, and some of the residents are struggling from it. This has been echoed by both the local residents that I've worked with one-on-one, including one actually today, this morning, that reached out to me looking for help trying to find rides to the Elliott Hospital in Manchester. And this has also been echoed by the seniors at the Hand in Hand Center, which Helene had just brought up. So the purpose of this survey is to give the residents of Ware the opportunity to share their experiences regarding the lack of transportation options in Ware, and the results of the survey would catalyze the community to develop a solution that addresses their transportation needs. Just to kind of give a brief overview of what you'll find in the survey, I've included a copy of it in the white packets I gave out to everybody. We ask people if they or someone they know have issues getting to where they need to go due to not being able to drive. So this could be medical appointments, shopping or grocery stores, social outing, religious services, school, employment, or any other reason. We also touch on ideas for what a potential solution would look like for transportation in Ware. So it could either be a Ware van service, or it's asking them to identify what they would support using for the town of Ware. And the options we give would be a Ware van service utilizing a town-owned vehicle and town-supported drivers, of course being supported by local tax dollars. There's also volunteer driver programs coordinated with Ware volunteer drivers. So residents of Ware volunteer their time driving people to where they need to go. And then a taxi or a similar private service voucher program in which Ware residents would get discounted rides supported by local tax dollars. And this is kind of what this looks like throughout our region with various transit providers. The towns of Wyndham and Atkinson actually have their own town-operated transportation service specifically tailored towards the older residents in their communities. And then there's also volunteer driver organizations throughout the region as well, being the community caregivers of Greater Derry, and then the Caregivers, which is based in the Greater Manchester area. And then, of course, we also ask if there was like a volunteer driver program to come to Ware, would they see themselves using their service for transportation, and would they also use themselves providing rides for Ware residents, just to kind of get an understanding of how exactly the town would utilize such services. And that's my sort of brief overview of who I am, what I do, and what the survey would do for Ware. Anything else I should touch on? Any comments? Anyone want to jump in?
Is this survey going to be sent out to all households?
So the way it's being distributed is we actually have it online. So we have it online and we have it in paper form. So online it actually got sent out in last week's Where in the World. And then we also have ways of people submitting the survey physically. So we would have Dropbox locations in various spots throughout Ware, such as the senior center, the library, or here at the town offices. And then we also have posters and postcards with a little QR code on it where people can scan it and just take the survey with their phone. And then, of course, they could always just fill out the survey on paper and then mail it to me instead. And instructions are given on that as well.
One more thing,
Yeah.
and elections, we're gonna take.
Yes, and then we're also going to be tabling at the local elections next week, giving people the opportunity to fill out the survey there, whether they want to do it in the paper form or just scan the QR code and do it on their phone while they wait.
Okay. Anybody have anything for Ben?
Sounds like a great program, that's for sure.
Well, I think it's something that, we're one of the few communities we don't offer anything of that nature. I think there's a lot of questions as how to, how it's funded.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a very rural town out west of 300 people, and they have, they have transportation to go to appointments, so I think it's ridiculous we don't. But the true volunteers out there, drive for free and go for free out here, it's hard to find that. So you guys have thoughts and options as, how to get drivers and,
Yeah.
because I don't think it's a bad idea. I think the town would support maybe purchasing some sort of vehicle in the future, but getting an employee to be in charge of that, I don't know, does that fly in this town, so.
Yeah, and of course, like I said, there's volunteer driver programs available throughout the region, and they could actually serve the town of Ware if Ware was able to have volunteers for them. They would do all the operating and background stuff, and the survey actually runs from now until the beginning of May. So we give a good length amount of time for as many people as possible to give their input and share their experiences with transportation. So everything that has to do with like what transportation we want to see coming out of this is going to come after the result of the survey, once we see what the demand is and what the unmet needs are
Sure.
for Ware residents.
Okay.
Elaine wants to speak.
Would it be possible, Mr. Chairman, for some people from the audience who have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna recognize.
You had something you wanted to bring forward?
Yeah.
He said fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just gotta do it at the podium so everybody can hear you, that's all.
It's more of a practical question. Ware doesn't have any senior housing facilities, as do a lot of other communities, like Goffstown, or over 50 communities. We all seem to be pretty independent individuals in Ware, and Ware is a very large geographic community, spread out all over the place. From a practical standpoint, how does that fit in with other communities? I'm assuming some of the communities you work with have senior housing, areas where seniors are living, make it more reasonable to expect that a rider service would be more available, more convenient for a facility like that than traveling, half an hour from the center of Ware, and you're still in Ware. Pick up one person to go 3 hours away to the doctor's appointment. It just doesn't seem to fit our footprint. But obviously, you've got the experience in maybe other communities
Yeah.
in your area that have the same situation.
Yeah, of course. I mean, independence is a huge part in terms of the whole field of transportation and getting people to where they need to go. I know every town in my region is different. Every town in the whole state of New Hampshire is different as well. But such services exist in towns way up in the northernmost parts of North Country. And I think when you talk about independence, when it comes to transportation and getting people to where they need to go, it does bring a sort of independence to people who are able just to get their rides, to go through their medical appointments, and go grocery shopping as well. So I'd see having transportation available in Ware is less of making people dependent and more of giving people the independence to live on their own, move freely on their own, and get the needs that they need on their own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just costly, I think, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Costly in our community, given the amount of travel. I don't want to be negative, I'm just trying.
Oh, no, of course.
If I might add to the discussion, good evening, everyone. Sylvia Von Aulock. I'm the Executive Director at Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and I work quite a bit with Ben. So part of this is trying to visualize what would work and where. So let's look at your neighbor, New Boston. What do they have? What they have is they work with MTA, Manchester Transit, and they have a program that they work through us where they pay 20% of a program where they get 15 rides a month. And that's called it's a call demand. So they have, for example, someone who needs to go to a medical appointment. That person will make a phone call to MTA, they schedule it, and they say, I need an appointment Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, let's say to go to dialysis. And so they, that allotment of 15 rides a month, and that's what they pay for. If they go over that allotment, they pay a little extra. And so that's something New Boston is doing. So it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter how far spread you are. They do door to door. And if you have mobility issues, it doesn't matter, they will help you. Whether you're in a wheelchair or a walker or you're independently able, they help you regardless. Let's think of another community. So for example, Wyndham. Ben had a picture of the Wyndham van. So Wyndham years ago bought themselves, well, they probably did it in conjunction with their recreation department, or they had a hand-me-down vehicle, like you were talking about the police department. But there was a vehicle they decided they were going to use for rides, and so they dedicate that, and then they pay for someone to work part-time, drive the van, and that's also door to door. And they determine on their own how far they want to go. Do they want to drive to Boston to, if someone has a medical appointment, maybe they're a cancer patient and they need specific medical attention. So that community decides how far will we drive someone. Is it just in town? Is it outside of town? How far? 50-mile radius, 10-mile radius. Other towns, also very rural, just like you, have volunteer driver programs. So we've already talked to caregivers. Would you be willing to work with the town of Ware? If the town of Ware provided their own volunteer drivers, which is why we have that question on the survey, could you picture yourself as a volunteer driver? So that's part of the survey. If Ware supplied their own drivers, we could have a much easier transition into developing a volunteer driver program. It is already there. That is no cost to you at all, 0 cost, and door-to-door delivery service. And the drivers pick their own schedule. They make their own schedule. They pick their own rides. They say, oh, because it's your own residents they're driving, I know that person. Let's say you're recently retired and you want to help the town out. You've lived here 30 years or 40 years, you want to now help out. So you become a driver and you recognize your neighbor who needs a ride. Oh, I can drive them. So then that's all coordinated through caregivers. So those are 3 easy ways you can see how that works. Thank you.
So with the survey, what we're trying to do is find out what the need is and then work our way from there. But without really knowing the need, it's too anecdotal and we need a hard copy. So as Ben mentioned, we are going to do a kickoff at elections, so hoping to get a good percentage there. It's being kept open. We have it when it'll be in Where in the World, how you can do that with the QR code. And we're going to have it posted in as many places as we can. So to get a good idea of what the need is in the Ware, and then work from there.
Is the survey available through Where in the World? Is there a link to the survey?
Yes.
Mhm.
We already did that.
Yeah,
In
the-
this
So you can do it
In this-
online?
It was in this very last issue that came out. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
What's the trigger to make it for the next, for you to go to the next step? In terms of the survey, what do you, is there an anticipation as to what the percentage would be that?
No, it's it's an open survey. We try it, we work very hard to make sure that the questions were not tilted one way or another, until we have the survey and we see what the people in Ware have to say.
So it's possible it wouldn't be, it's something that the town wouldn't want?
If we don't have a need, nothing would come, it would just say, we don't have a need. If,
From a statistical standpoint, what would the percentage be? Based on the population, have any idea?
I think you said 7, I think we were talking 7 to 10%.
7 to 10%?
Of need or of
Well,
answering the
7%,
survey?
The number of people that participate in the survey, you're looking at maybe 10, 20%?
It's never that high,
No.
no.
Less than that.
We'd hope for
3%,
that.
sometimes it's
We get
3%.
I think, the last time Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission assisted the town with surveys, that was a master plan. Actually, Helene, we worked with Helene then and a group of citizens wanting help with the master plan. I think there were over 400 people who participated in that, something like 450. So I would anticipate now with a QR code, it's online, we're working with the town, we're working with hand in hand. I think it's, Naomi, it'll be on the website, the town's website. So I'm gonna guess there's so much more involvement here with posters and going to the voting. So I'm gonna guess we're gonna probably have over 500. When we assisted the town of Wyndham recently with a completely different topic, but with a survey. The one day we were at their vote in February, because of the QR code, everybody goes up with their cell phone and does their survey, and just like that, we had over 500 participants in one day. So I'm gonna guess it could be that much, depending on the outcome on your election day.
Thank you.
So speak to your friends and neighbors, have them all
Let 'em know.
participate.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate all of you.
I'll get 'em.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thanks, Ben. I'll see you Wednesday.
Oh. Yeah, we did. Just turn around myself. All right, brings us to the next item, which is the department head community items, Parks and Rec. Denise, you here for that? Okay,
No, she's not here. Her kids had a athletic.
so you're
that
here,
don't
you're
start.
here in her place.
So I don't look like her, but I'm here in her place.
Okay, you're here in her place, okay.
Yeah, Pam and Dave couldn't make it, so next. We just wanted to give an update. I know last week you guys talked about the open positions we had and Salem jumping at any point, but, you know, I think there was a conversation around the work we're gonna be doing with the bylaws and updating the director job description, but also that we have 2 candidates who have applied and actually sat through our meeting. And I think we had hoped that they would be here tonight to get appointed, but I think in that confusion, that didn't happen. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of quick background. At our last meeting, we started to have some discussion about things come up, like who can vote, who can't vote, how many people are on the committee, a lot of different things that have been coming up lately. And we don't have any guiding documents, and I did some research of the different town commissions and committees. Some do, some don't. But I think when you have a turnover, it's very helpful to have some kind of set of guiding documents. So we decided, we voted unanimously last meeting to start to develop and craft a set of bylaws, probably following the same format that the other town committees have, so it's easy to look at. So we could address things like membership, what's the responsibility of the chair, the vice chair, do we have a secretary, who takes minutes, all those things. I mean, I think there was a point in time when there was a whole year when no minutes were taken. So we had that discussion. We also recognized that the job description for the director's 10 years old, hasn't been looked at in 10 years. It actually says on it, it should be looked every year. So we'd like to go through that. And those things would come back to the Board of Selectmen, obviously, for, Salem had asked if we could, just pull out, and I made copies in case you haven't seen it, the RSA that guides Parks and Rec. So we're gonna use that RSA to help guide us in the development of our bylaws. It's not extensive, it's not as probably complex as some of the others, but we'll use that. So we wanna work, it's probably, as I think Salem said last week, it's probably gonna take us 4 to 6 months, and we gotta chunk through it. But in the meantime, we have open positions. And, I'll speak for myself, but I think I'm speaking for the board. Spring is coming. We have ball fields to get ready, playgrounds to open, the lake has to get open, the tennis courts. And the members do all that work. We don't have anybody that we hire to come in and do that. And the thought of doing it with just the 3 of us. And, Salem's been very helpful. He's been out helping us fix the playground. He was at the holiday meal, helping to serve. But the more members we have, the less burden it is on each one of us. And so we had 2 people who came to the meeting with their applications interested in joining. When Janine stepped down last fall, we have not filled her position. And there has been a 1-year position on the website for, I don't know how long, longer than I've been on the board. And so we hate to turn 2 people away. We interviewed both of them, and I think we all felt that they were a good fit. One gentleman has been in the community about 3 or 4 years. He's involved in the Scouts. He's actually, his troop, I think, may have been one that was down at Bolton, helping to do the cleanup down there.
Yeah, he's Cub Scouts right now. But
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
And then
I
soon
say
to be Boy
Scouts
Scouts.
because I
yeah.
don't know. And then the other woman's been in town about 20 years. She's been a coach of basketball. She's coaching lacrosse right now. She's an empty nester, but really would like to get involved in parks. So I think last week it kind of got left off. I don't know, I'm not even sure how it got left off, but that maybe those positions would be put on hold until we did the bylaws. But I'm here to say that, we had hoped that they would get filled now, because we just have so much work to do. And I think anytime we have people who want to be on Parks and Rec, we should be looking to add folks to that. I think when Salem has been guiding us through the process, and we've been talking about, through the bylaws, establishing, do we have a commission of 6 people with the ex officio being the 7th, so that you don't have.
Get the odd.
Yeah, and then we have the director position. I went back through the minutes for the last 10 years, and even I went through the town reports before that. On average, Parks and Rec has had 5 to 7 members, not counting the ex officio and the director. So right now, you know, there's 3 members, a director in Salem, and I think so I'm here tonight to say, would you be willing next week to take a look at those 2 candidates and appoint them, you know, to the board, so that we could at least get up to 5 members while we're putting the bylaws together and deciding what the overall makeup is gonna look like. From what I can see in the RSA that I gave you, the board can decide to appoint who they want and what they want. The only thing I saw in the RSA that we need to be sure you incorporate into the bylaws is that the appointments of positions should be in 3-year cycles, staggering, which is another thing. I think if we did this and we looked at the bylaws, and if we ended up going with 6 members, we could have staggering, so every 2 years, 2 people would be coming off, so we wouldn't find ourselves, you know, Janine's position is vacant. We have 2 members that are due to expire this year who haven't decided yet whether or not they'll renew. You know, so we're just trying to build that up and then get the Parks and Rec up to where the other boards and commissions are with bylaws and job descriptions. Did I cover that?
I think, yeah, I'll take some blame for last week. I brought up the topic, and then we ended up talking about lifeguard stuff, and I didn't realize that I hadn't finished what I brought up last week, so then kind of left it hanging, and then I went back, watched the video, and kind of kicked myself that, because I wanted to have the discussion of like, what are we doing? What's the plan? Because with the 3-year terms, I don't want to rush in, appoint people, and then find out, uh-oh, we've done more or something wrong. I don't remember ever putting a timeline on it, like 3-4 months. In my head, I was always thinking like a week or 2.
A week or 2 to do the
To like
bylaws?
at least talk through like, what are we doing?
Oh.
I don't think things have to wait, you know, more than that to start
But I do
appointing
think
people.
that's developing the full set of bylaws is
Yeah,
gonna take
probably.
more. I think we're gonna
I
have,
wouldn't disagree.
I think we're gonna have to chunk off a certain portion of it at every meeting.
Yeah, but
If
the
we're
most
gonna do
important
it
thing is hiring right now. Probably
Correct.
field usage and hiring, because that's,
Field usage, so we have our field usage meeting coming up Friday to assign the fields. And then we have hiring for Chase Park and readying Chase Park. There's just a lot coming up, and, you know, I think if we could get a couple, and again, it comes down to, we have 2 people who came to our meeting last week with an application and an interest in joining and giving back.
I don't want to sidetrack on this one, but it has been there's been an ongoing email issue that has a lot of this information where people have been, you know, saying, hey, I'm interested, has been lost. And so it's all kind of coming back together. Denise has been spearheading, working with IT to figure out.
That
Yeah.
back roped in.
So our email has been broken for maybe 2 months. We're not getting emails, they're getting bounced back. Naomi's been great at forwarding emails to us, so it's been a bit confusing. But these 2 individuals actually showed up to the meeting with their applications, stayed for the whole meeting, thought they were gonna be here tonight so that they could make this Friday's meeting. But if we were able to get them here next week, they could make the meeting on the 20th, because we're holding 2 meetings in March, because we have so much to get ready for the lake and field usage. So I guess I'm here just for some sense of, what do we as Parks and Rec tell them? And also Parks and Rec wanted you guys to know that we are trying to get sort of the guiding principles and paperwork in order so that we can start. I think as people turn over, it's just like, you know, I'm 2 years on the board now, but it's like, well, what is a real number, and who is a voting member, and, you know, who does the director evaluation, and how often does it get done? So we're just trying to clean up those loose ends and get it documented, so as people come and go, there's always one set of guidelines to guide everybody.
Understood.
And they'll all come back to you for approval.
Yeah, I think the first point to address is how many people are we okay, this board, appointing to Parks and Rec? And which terms are open for which years? And so which ones are like not 3-year terms? Which ones are? So then we need to decide who would go into what slots to bring us to how many total.
So I tried to get some information on Janine's position. Naomi told me before the meeting, she was appointed in 2018. So her 3-year term was up in 2021. She wasn't officially reappointed, but she stayed on, so her 3-year term would have been up this
So
year.
she got reappointed in 21.
No.
She didn't.
No, she
not
didn't.
this-
No,
If,
she would have expired in 24.
yeah.
Again, so theoretically,
keep
that should be a
coming.
3-year term, one of them should be a 3-year term.
That
So,
doesn't line
if-
up with at least the website, because
I-
you and Dave are,
Dave and I both expire in 2024.
and it should
So
be,
there's 3 of
Should be a
us,
stagger there.
yeah.
right? So one of the, and again, I'm saying all this only because I think through the RSA, even though it's not written in bylaws and the RSA doesn't say you have to have them, but you guys can make the decision. If we were to take one of Janine's and just say, hey, let's appoint them now for 3 years, that gives us 3 years there. The other person, you know, I don't think any of them, even if we appointed it as a 1-year term and they got reappointed a year from now, it would help
Yeah.
us to stagger it.
Well, that's, I think what Sam's point is to stagger it, that stagger,
Right.
just like we are, we're
Right,
staggered here.
right.
That's where you're trying to get
Yeah,
to.
so it's what is it now? What total number do we want to hit? Does it matter if we go over this time if we, like if, you know, it wouldn't be this board, but the board would say, we're gonna go up to 6 and then, turns out shave somebody in a couple of years. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't,
Well, to me, I mean, again, this is my own opinion, I don't think it would hurt to put those two on, and that would put you at how many without Salem?
Without counting Salem and Lisa, who's the director, that would get us to 5.
So it's still an odd amount.
And and then I think we're gonna probably address in the bylaws whether we request to
Yeah.
have 6 plus the ex officio giving us the 7.
Does Lisa vote?
She does right now.
Okay, I'm just, I
And,
don't know.
and so, one of the things that's on the topic is that job description.
Yeah,
It doesn't address voting or not voting. It appears to have changed over the course of the years, but nothing, a lot of it's been verbal and not written down. So that's one of the things that we're gonna be talking about, is the director a voting member or not? So that when we come back here, we will have all those things answered for you.
right.
But I think in the short term, whether we say 3 years or 1 year until we get the bylaws done, we just need some more people, you know,
Oh, I
just to
get it,
help us
no,
out.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I just wanna keep it that
Yeah.
odd amount.
Yeah.
If Lisa's a vote and Salem's a vote, then there's, you know,
Right.
you're only looking for,
Right.
and that's
you're
where
looking
it
for 5.
started. That's where it started.
Yeah,
Right.
is-
you're only looking for 5 then, type thing.
Right, so right now Lisa's voting in Salem. There's been
Yeah,
this is what
that's where it
started.
started.
Yeah.
Was the Salem vote, the Salem not vote. And by state law, by statute, he can.
Yeah,
But it's not written down anywhere.
Right.
And then the question came up, does a director vote? Well, yes, she does, but is it written down somewhere?
it's
And-
not.
Yeah,
well, I'm just thinking if, you know, if that's currently how it is, and that's how
Right.
you guys are gonna structure.
Right.
With the ex officio voting and the director
Right.
voting, and that's gonna be on paper somewhere, which
Right.
is fine.
Right.
Then what's that core number of volunteers gonna be? It's gonna be 5 to get
Correct.
to 7, or
If-
3,
right.
or whatever, but it's gotta
Right.
have that odd number.
Right.
So
I
that's why I'm
think-
just trying to, in my brain, just
I-
trying to come up with what we're
you're
doing.
right. So if you do these two now,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that currently the director votes, and I think Salem has the right to vote, that's 7. I
Okay.
think in the bylaws, if we were to change any of that, just using an example, the director doesn't, then we might come back and say 6 in the ex officio.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't had that discussion yet,
Right.
so I don't wanna say
No,
that
that's
we
fine.
would- Yeah, so
Well,
5 right now would give us 7 voting members.
Well, my thought is, again, and I'm not trying to discourage,
Right.
but if the park is going to say that the director is not gonna be a voting member, then that changes the composition, so.
But to her point, it's okay, if the director's voting now and then ends up later not, then you just backfill them with another volunteer. Which
Okay.
it's easier to add than it
That's
is
fine,
to
and that's fine, I just wanna make sure that when, if we go through this next week, that, you know, you guys don't, that the park doesn't go, uh-oh, we went one too many type thing.
And that's what-
That's all,
That's where I got
Right,
like kinda
right.
frustrated, like,
Yeah.
that's all I was trying to do
To be
with
honest
this.
with you, I actually went all the way back to 1941 when it was established, but it used to have 10 members.
Oh, that's,
So,
yeah, okay.
So if we were to go through the whole bylaw process, I'm just saying possibly, and we said we'd have 6 members.
Yep,
A director, I'm just making this up right now, a director that doesn't vote in ex officio, that would give us 7. If we said we have a director that votes, then we might come back and say, let's stick with 5.
yep,
The director, so that, you know, as Salem's been guiding us, it's good to have that odd number when you get to a voting point. So we haven't had that level of discussion, so I don't want to tell you something
Okay,
that we
no, that's
haven't
fine.
done. But at the very least, we would be looking for 5 members, because then the other 2 would give us the 7. If we change anything, we might come back through the bylaws and say we'd like to have it be 6, and then go from
I
there.
get you.
But I think it's gonna take us a good 5 or 6 months to develop those bylaws
Get
and
'em.
get through the job description, to have a draft to come back here for you guys to take a look at and approve.
so I guess if Park is comfortable, I'm comfortable bringing them 2 in next week.
Well, so we voted on bringing those 2 members on.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Like you said, and if Lisa falls off, then you just add another one.
Yeah.
So, can I just ask,
If it
so
had shaken out
Lisa,
differently, we would've had this conversation last week, brought him here this week, and
Yep.
it'd be said,
Yep,
but
it's fine.
things got bumped
Understood.
a week.
yeah, so Lisa is a paid
Right,
person. And Denise and I have had this conversation, I don't recall a prior director that was paid vote. They give you all the information and do the things.
And I think that's why we're having the conversations we're
Okay.
having,
Okay,
that we recognize that we've got to get our paperwork in order, if you
Sure,
will.
sure.
And I think, again, we pulled, you know, you helped provide the job description.
Mm-hmm.
It was written in 2013. It hasn't changed.
Right.
And actually, the job description says that person reports to the town administrator. Do we even want that? So that's a discussion that we have to have. So all the questions you're asking
Sure,
are the same
sure.
questions that we're asking, and we're just saying, you know what? Every time there's a new member, the same questions come up. Let's get it in writing, let's have a set of bylaws, and then going forward, it should be pretty straightforward.
So, coming back next week, you have a 1 in 25, 2 in 24, and then the ex officio seat moves, could be anybody in a year.
Right.
So, it says vacant 1 year, but that's gonna be, so are you looking for, if that puts 1 more in 25, then you have nobody in 26 and then 27. So are you looking maybe for a 2-year and a 3-year?
The 2 24s were to renew,
You'd be 27,
be 2 27s.
right? So
And
are you
then we
looking for
have-
a 1-year and a 2-year maybe? That would be,
Well, if we had another one, if we said, yeah, I mean, at this point, if we.
you have nobody in 26, that's all I'm
Right,
asking.
so
Yeah, because we just did Pam
Pam's
this year.
gonna go in
Yeah.
25.
Sam's is 25. So you would
I
have,
think you just did Pam. See, here's another issue. You just did Pam because Pam was overdue.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Janine never got done.
So that could be, it could be structured just like this, 224, 225, 126.
That's correct.
And it moved,
that's what I
Right.
was thinking.
Right,
Thank you.
exactly.
Or you could do the 2 new ones for 1 year and reevaluate everything after you get your bylaws done,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the best idea right
Yeah.
there, just put those for 1.
I just want to know what they're coming in for so that if they ask a question of them, they know it's a 1-year,
So
not a
I-
3-year.
At the very least, we can do the 1 year and then
Yeah.
deal with it through the bylaws. Or you can do a 3-year. It's entirely up to you. It's your call. We'll take the 1 year. I think they will too, knowing that if it works out, they'll want
Yeah.
to get reappointed.
Well, I think that gets in that route, that, 2-2-1, 2-2-1
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah. So I'm comfortable if they come back, we'll let them know they're gonna get appointed for a one-year term, but we'll work through
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and, all right, at the end of the 1 year, they wanna do it, and the
Yeah.
park is on board, then just
Yeah,
So
Yep.
the
re-volunteer.
the only thing with the 1 year, it goes back, and it goes back to the staggered terms. So it says, the persons initially appointed to the commission shall serve staggered terms, okay, this isn't initial, but then their successors shall be appointed under the same appointing procedure for 3 years. Vacancies as they occur shall be filled by the appointing authority for the unexpired term. So that's where we need
Since
to
we
know
don't
what
really know
is,
what the unexpired term is, I
we
think it
don't.
would be prudent to go with 1 year, let them figure out their bylaws, and then.
and that's, yeah, I think, some,
We don't know
some
what
of the law is
unexpired
like,
term
to make sure, it's to hold everybody accountable. But I think in an instance like this, where if everybody understands, we're not trying to do anything shady, we're not trying to break
no.
the law.
No.
We're trying to, both sides of,
Rectify a-
because this is supposed to hold two sides of an
Right.
agreement together, but if
I
we're
agree.
both agreeing,
right.
I think we are. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, if we get the 2 for 1 year, they'll be there to help us work through the bylaws.
Yeah.
And then,
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
and then come next year, everything will be
Yeah.
flat,
Yeah.
ready to go.
and both of them got up and spoke about their desire to help develop the bylaws, so they're really engaged in this, and I think it would be very healthy for the commission to get these 2 members and to move forward with this.
Denise, you mentioned that you had a lot of work to do here this spring. There's a lot of stuff that has to get done. And this is only a suggestion that, have you thought about maybe putting 2 or 3 alternates on to fill in? So if somebody's out, an alternate can vote, but it would also give you 2 or 3 extra people to
Right.
help
Yes.
do the work this spring.
Probably wouldn't hurt in
yeah.
your process.
So when I went back and looked at the history, for a while, there were alternates. There was a 1-year alternate and 2 3-year alternates. But again, every year it seemed to change. So if we had a set of bylaws that said, our membership is gonna be this, but we will have alternates.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I think
Just
it would
give you
help
some
us.
extra help.
Yeah, because I think this commission is unique in that we do all the, other than mowing the lawns, we pretty much cut the brush, pull the weeds. I mean, the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, they have been, a asset to us because they go out and pull all the weeds at Bolton, but everything else we end up doing. So yeah, to your point, I think that will be something we discuss, but we haven't discussed it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could also get volunteers, that they don't have to necessarily be on your
Right.
board to have volunteers. So
Right,
you could put
right.
a call out at any time for additional volunteers
Yeah.
too.
Planning board has 5 members, 5 alternates. Right now, they have 5 members, 4 alternates right now, but you can have up to 5.
okay,
So at any given night, there may be 3 missing,
yeah.
and the alternates step in.
Yeah.
And then you can
So-
still have a quorum and conduct business.
I think that's good to know because there is one individual who applied in October. We had all this email issue. Naomi did forward the application. That individual didn't come to a meeting, but we didn't reach out to her. So we're trying to connect with her too. She potentially could be another one if she's interested, and we had an alternate position. And we don't know yet if the 2 people that are up this year are gonna stay or not stay. So, I mean, the more people we can engage, I
Better.
think the better we are, so, thank you very much. So,
Thank you.
can I go ahead and tell them to come next week, or are you
I'm
gonna
good.
hold?
I don't see why
I'm
not.
good with it. It only, so if these 2 1-year terms, I know that's just to get things on track for the rest of this year, but as you just read, the successor shall be appointed under the same appointing procedure. Does that screw that up, or you guys, are the bylaws gonna kind of fix that?
I think the
I
bylaws
think
fix
we're
that.
all acknowledging that it may not be completely proper, but we're going to
We're in uncharted territory.
cover a gap here.
And I'm not one to, if it comes up, be like, no, I understood.
gonna
It just-
write this
There's
date
potentially only
down.
2 of us, I mean, hopefully 3 of us, but potentially only 2 of us will be here, so just making sure, that's all.
I think we'll know
be 3
if
for
this was the date we did it, if we ever have to go back and
Yeah.
look at it. But I do think we're making, both sides are making good faith commitments to work through this over the next year
I would agree.
and get it cleaned up and,
Yeah,
I would
no,
agree.
I understand, I just
yeah.
bring that up, that's all.
All right, so I'll work with you.
Next week, 2 of them will come in to see you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so
And I guess I
much.
hope they come to the 5th, meeting on the 5th, Is it tomorrow?
8th.
No, the 8th, yeah, it was gonna be tomorrow. We moved it to the 8th.
I don't think they can.
Oh, okay. Well, not to like
Oh, they
vote,
could
but they
sit
can
in.
participate
Yes,
and
yes,
just say like,
yeah.
hey, please participate
That'd
in
be a
discussion,
learning
don't vote.
experience,
All
even
right.
just being there.
All right, we'll do that. We'll make sure
Process.
that they know that. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gonna do the manifest. Order the treasurer to sign payroll accounts payables checks dated March 7th, 2024 is including the following manifest. Payroll manifest of $73,439.68 for weekly payroll. Accounts payable of $47,866.49. Supplemental accounts payable for $4,800. Ware School District for $600,000 and John Stark for $250,000, which brings it to a total of $976,106.17. Is there a second?
Second?
Move second. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like you to do it now while we're on camera.
Yep.
Okay.
So we had, I think everybody would agree, a really productive, non-public, minutes disclosure meeting Friday?
No, last Monday.
Last Monday.
They
Oh,
all
the
start, they
Friday
all
was a
start to
different
blend
one.
together.
Right,
They
yeah,
all
yeah,
start to
yeah.
blend
Last
together
Monday.
after a while.
Yeah, and so it was our first exercising, so of the
Policy.
review and release sections of the non-public minutes policy. There were a couple of parts, it was like, well, maybe this is a little too strict. So I was gonna propose a couple of amendments to this, just to make, if we get to more today, just to make it a tiny bit more streamlined while keeping with the original intent. So, I meant to write this before now.
Hit the right
So release, so, yeah, one of the things we ran into was, when we released them, we came back out into public, the cameras, we can't turn them back on, but we voted and it ends up in the minutes, and we did it as written. Once discussion is complete, the board will return to public session for a vote on whether to release the discussed minutes. If multiple minutes were discussed, each will be voted on individually. There were multiple minutes discussed. Voting on them individually was tedious. So
Very.
I would propose that we amend that to say if multiple minutes were discussed, and I don't have the language, but, the vote shall include the dates of all discussed
Yeah,
minutes.
that's what I was hoping, just make one motion including
Right.
all the dates.
Right.
So we made a motion
For
and
every
voted
single
for every date and then another one. So if we just say,
Yeah.
Yeah, it took
April
10 minutes
1st
just to do
and
the motions.
May 30th, yeah.
I mean, it was tedious. I think it's gonna be tedious for the next few years of meetings that you unseal. But, I mean, once you get into a thing of 2 or 3 here and there, it won't be that
Wouldn't be that
bad.
bad.
No, it's not gonna be that bad at all. Not saying that that you shouldn't alter it, but do you want to, I hate to say it, we run it as it is now, you come up with the amendment for next week?
That's fine. The other one I was gonna suggest was, just, there was a little bit of language. Once the board agrees to make non-public minutes available to the public, the board will retrieve the minutes from the town clerk's office, confirm, is this the right one? Confirm that all signatures and initials are valid and not tampered with, and the minutes will be amended to include the date made public, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not clear that, we had a discussion on which minutes are supposed to be amended, and I think it would clarify it and go with what we ended up doing by putting the word non-public there.
Okay.
Because it was like, wait, are we amending the existing public minutes and putting non-public in there? And
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we went with, no, we're amending the existing non-public minutes, just updating the date to
Correct.
say these were released today.
Yeah,
So I would.
and to
I
be
would
filed with
also
the other.
And that's all the amendment is to change.
Just add
the
that
date.
one word,
Yeah,
just to clarify, to keep the pattern what we set last week.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, which I think we did fine last week. I think that's a good process. It just needs to be tweaked in the policy, that's all. All right.
We're not actually amending any of the minutes per se.
No.
No.
I just want to make sure.
The non-public
Right.
minutes, because they would have been written, we'll pretend, a year ago.
Sure.
And then we go back, we review it and say, yep, these are ready for release. That non-public minutes, we would just say released, but we would amend them to say released on date X.
Right.
Right.
And it maybe amend is the wrong term for it, but just like,
I just don't want to throw that out, somebody that only listened to a portion of it think, oh, they're changing the non-public minutes.
No, we're not.
no.
no.
Not the content.
I
of
know
the
that
minutes,
that's
it's
all we're
just to
doing, I
say-
just want to make sure that's the right
Yep.
word. I
And
don't have a better one, I just
Yep.
want to.
And then.
Yeah, I think though the technical term is amending because you're changing the title of it
Yeah.
in this
Right.
case,
I
so,
suppose, yeah.
yeah, I think amendment is the correct verbiage, but yes, very clear, we are not amending the
No, no,
minutes.
no, no.
We are only amending what they're called
Right.
to show the release date.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we did, and we, the only things that we kept sealed were things related to like exit interviews. So like employees, you know, we tell people, hey, this will never get released, and so we're never going to release them.
Yep.
So people will be completely honest with us. Things related to like tax liens, you know, residents, that kind of thing.
Personnel.
That are, yeah, so personnel and ongoing legal,
Litigation.
yeah, ongoing litigation. So, yeah, that was productive, and we
So
didn't hold
just for clarity, will you make, you're gonna make formal ones, cause I
Yeah.
didn't catch everything you said.
back. Yeah,
So
I
you're gonna
will.
make formal ones for next week so that we can vote on them?
Yeah, we'll amend it next week.
Yes. Yeah, I'm taking
So
notes
I can't
somewhere.
do that.
Thank you.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. All right, at this time, we're going to go into a non-public session, under RSA 91A3, Roman rule 2, A and C. We're gonna hold 4. One's gonna be for an exit interview, and then, oh, we're gonna do, 5.
Well, we have to talk about the fire department.
Oh, that's right, so 5, I guess,
So
okay.
you get 3 reviews.
Yep,
An
3
exit
reviews, an
interview,
exit interview,
and the fire department letters,
discussion.
right.
Okay, so,
Before we
Fire
go into
department.
non-public, can I read something?
Yeah.
Okay. This is to,
let me rescind my motion, because I made a motion go in.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sorry.
So I'll
thank
rescind
you.
the motion.
okay. This is to the Board of Selectmen. I'm writing this letter because on February 12, 2024, during a non-public meeting to review the minutes from non-public meetings in 2023, I learned that the board had at that time discussed me being derelict in my duties as selectman. None of the following is a reflection on Selectman Bloom, Knapp, or Matthews. It is a reflection of the past board. I was outraged that the board discussed my dereliction of duties, and not a single member of that board had reached out to me. It is against the law in the state of New Hampshire to hold a non-public meeting about a selectman. Again, this does not surprise me. They make up the rules, their own rules, as they see fit. For the board to discuss the state that I was in dereliction of my duties is a 100% false statement. On December 8th, I became very ill and was sick and unable to attend the Board of Selectmen's meeting on December 19th. I called my primary care doctor, and on December 19th, 2022, and the first available appointment was December 21st, 2022. I also called the town administrator and let her know that I would not be attending the meeting due to that night because of illness. During the time of my illness, not able to attend BOS meetings, I was seen by doctors and medical staff 8 times and continued to see doctors and medical staff during March and April. I called and spoke with town administrator on 2 occasions and left 3 messages to make her aware of my continued illness. In addition, the town administrator called me once. On February 17th, 2023, I attended the BOS meeting. It was the first since the start of my illness in December. I brought a copy of the letter from my PCP dated February 13th, 2023, and gave it to the town administrator. This letter stated that I could return to the meetings as tolerated. So that's that. I'd like it put into the minutes. And then secondly, I just did a little research and found out that I missed December 19th, January 16th, the 24th, the 30th, February 6th, and the 13th. Those were 6 meetings total. In that same time frame, and I don't believe this person had any dereliction of duties stated, missed the 19th, the 19th of December, the 16th, the 24th, the 13th, the 17th of February, March 2nd, 6th, and 13th, which was 8 meetings. And I don't believe that was brought up in any non-public. So I don't know why I'm being singled out when I'm sick under doctor's care with specialists and doctors, and 8 times in less than 8 weeks, why I'm being singled out.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And on top of this, the other person that was out 8 times in a roughly the same time frame was also, that I found out, was not living even in Ware as a selectman. He was not living in Ware, and that's another violation. That's a state law that you have to live in the town you're being a selectman in. So it's like, there's a set of rules for me and not a set of rules for somebody else on the board, and I'm really disappointed that that's how you're doing stuff.
Okay.
I'm gonna give that to Naomi so she can get it in the minutes. She won't have to try to do it.
Okay, I'll move we go into non-public under RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2A and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor, roll call. Sherry?
Yes.
Salem?
Yes.
Ricky, yes. Benji?
Yep.
And Janice?
Yes.
Okay.